Welcome to episode 6 of Isle of Scáth. This is the part where I introduce the video, throw in a hilarious and sarcastic joke, then proceed to give an overview of what's to come. Well, now we've got that out of the way, let's get into the episode. Last week, Nerd Chacho very kindly built a coaster for the park, and I made a station for it. But who cares about functioning parts of the game? Let's put way too much time into something that can never be utilised. Someone commented on a video recently, telling me to just play the game the way it's meant to be played. I simply chuckled and said, "You've come to the wrong place." I created a transfer track using various coaster support pieces and locomotive rails. Next, I started work on the catwalk, allowing access to the transfer and the maintenance shed. Our non-functioning transfer tracks can't function without some purely decorative electronics and hydraulics. To prevent our little controls from getting damp, I built a canopy out of scaffolding and art shapes. For the maintenance shed, I used my favourite wood batten walls, and then used the wooden balcony base pieces to create the front, as I needed something small and off-grid to accommodate a shutter. I used the wooden planks from the Spooky DLC for the shutter, as they're nice and flat and uniform. I used colourable panels to create more defined grooves, and then used some pitch black ones to hide the carnage behind. Any building without a trim is a disgrace to its family, so this one gave in to social norms with a few wooden beams. Much like buildings, doors also mean nothing without a trim, so I rectified that with some hydro beams. I gave the whole thing a roof and added some of the usual clutter. Moving over to the exit path, I closed in the building and gave it a roof. As this is just a backstage area, I figured it more than likely that these shop fronts would just be facades, so I used plain old smooth concrete for the rear. For our fancy eatery, Mange, I allowed as much space as I could for a realistically sized interior. After placing the initial roofing, I raised up my custom supports to sit nicely on top. Whether or not this bougie pret-a-manger would be able to take the weight of a coaster is not my concern. Now you might be saying, hey, wait a minute, when did you do custom supports? Well, mind your own business. As Nerd Chacho so lovingly pointed out last week, our coaster's maintenance area needs vehicular access. I tarmacked the service road using Idro's plaster pieces and fenced off the ride areas, ensuring all the relevant signage was in place for no one to ever read. I felt bad for what I said earlier, so here's me replacing an in-game support with a custom one. To add varying textures, I swapped out the plaster for the service road with terrain paint. I personally don't like to see seams, so in this case I covered it with some hazard strips. It's time for another ride. Sorry, I should have warned you this was going to be an overwhelmingly exciting episode. I went with the 360 power, and to prove I'm somewhat capable of skinning rides, I decided to wrap one of the supports. I went with an ice shard style skin, simply using basic shapes. A lot of people ask where I get my inspiration from. Well, get ready because here's my secret. I make it up as I go along. I fenced off the queue and ride area with metal fencing. I know, this is next level stuff. For the sake of guest sightlines, I surrounded the ride with another castle wall facade. So original. In theatre, these are called flats. Now, don't say I never teach you anything. I gave our flats some support using braces. I'm not a fan of the bare terrain textures, so for this section I sunk a wall into it and created a lovely little sewer grate. To finish this area off, I linked our maintenance area to the flat ride and detailed accordingly. Finally, I covered up those ghastly queue posts with some ice shard ones to match the ride itself. Isn't cohesion a beautiful thing? And there we have it, some transfer tracks and another flat ride added to the park. Next week we'll be making a start on the main castle. See you then.